good evening, and greetings. Welcome to another edition of Full Disclosure here on Tobago Updates. And we are thankful that we have been afforded another opportunity to do a program like this. The philosophy of the program, as you can appreciate, is to continue to put some information in this space from the standpoint of the executive council, from the standpoint of the area reps and secretaries and all of that. And the intent really is to let you have a sense of what's happening from our perspective and so on, so that there can be a well-rounded conversation in the space. And we have been talking with various secretaries, assistant secretaries, we've been talking with councillors and so on, and we've been having some pretty good programs. Last week we had a very, very informative program. In fact, we had so many requests that tonight we have to say, by popular demand, we have Councillor Lady Sertica Williams-Orr, who works out of the office of the Chief Secretary and is responsible in large part for public administration and other matters. And I want to see, and she's immaculately dressed, man. I'm telling you, she's ready for the thing. You know, good night, ma'am. How are you?
Good evening. I'm good.
Yes.
I'm good.
Yes. We had so many good reviews of the program last week, and people were just there, wanting more information and calling and saying that we need to make sure and have you back this week. And so this is the reason. You understand? Yeah. When it's nice, you do it twice. Yes. Somebody says the reward for good work is more work, right? You know. So,
but I can only do my best.
Yeah, how things? How are you?
Well, I dare not complain. I should not.
Yes.
God is good. Right. Life is good, and as I said last week, I am grateful to the Chief Secretary, Honorable Fali Chavez Augustine, for giving me an opportunity to serve Tobago at another level while I'm still upright.
Right. I get you.
While I'm still upright.
Yes. Well, last week, one of the statements that you made, I suspect one can deem it a very acid one at that. And it stayed with me, and it's stuck in the minds of many. Many have been repeating it. When you said, if the ship hits the rocks, you don't ask the cook.
You don't ask the cook.
You know, and so on. And I think that all of us have a general understanding that if you are a leader in any organization or any institution, anything that goes wrong in that institution, people are going to look to you to give, some clarity, to answer the questions and so on. I wanted to start there tonight, because as officials, and you can appreciate this as well, and especially if you're now coming in, an official should trust information that is given to them, especially if the information is to be relayed in the public space and so on. So, and you have officers that are saddled with responsibility to provide you with certain information and that kind of thing. So, an officer should not have to check every document that comes from a senior officer that is supposed to provide that information.
Not the head of a department.
Yes, you understand? So the question is, while we appreciate that if the ship hit the rocks, that is the captain you have to talk to, but we need to, I'm sure, talk a little bit about persons who have the responsibility to present officials with the information, and sometimes that information may be faulty. And I'm not at all implying that in all cases it may be malicious and so on. What's your thought on that?
A head of a unit, a department, in this case a division, must be able to trust all heads of department, heads of unit. And if information is required and is presented, let's say in this case, it's presented to an administrator, for transmission to a secretary, the secretary or the administrator must have full confidence in those at the lower level that what is presented is relevant, it's accurate, and it is what is necessary. Because if you have to second guess or go to do the verification for yourself, then there is no need for those at the lower levels.
Indeed.
You can do it yourself and suffer from burnout very quickly, right? But those who are at the lower level must take pride in their work. It must be a joy. You see, you understand the reason for being there. You understand what is your task, what is your responsibility. You must know all that is involved as much as possible. And there must be a level of pride in what one does. When you present something, not only, it is said that food must not only, you're not reaching to taste. You must lock on by the presentation. Right?
Yes.
So when work is required, the way it's presented, it's not jumbled, it is not hard on the eyes. It's presented properly, and then the content is what is necessary. Right? So take pride in what you do. And those at the top would rely and should have that confidence in what the junior staff does. Right?
Yes, and I mean, I know that some of our officials in this dispensation have had those challenges, and I want to stress, because I do not believe that all incidents, there may be devilry in all those incidents. So I think.
But what would come out if that happens, where inaccurate information is presented? What can also be determined there is whether those who are charged with providing the information, whether they really know.
But that's the thing too, yeah.
Whether they're on the ball, whether they know what they ask for, if they know how to find it, how to present it. So in all of that, what could come out is a lack of training, a lack of knowledge. So that speaks to other actions.
Right.
Gotcha. So it shouldn't happen twice.
Right. Corrective actions.
Yes.
Right. Yes, and I think, we discussed it last week, that the culture of work is different in this day and age that we live. I had an opportunity to witness one of the first end of year activity as administrators are trying to get
the financial year,
the end of financial year and stuff, and it demands working extra hours and that kind of thing, and then and some of the officers blatantly say they ain't working no extra hours and those kinds of things and so on. But then some of these officers are freely and will freely have the time off to run the little errands, do what they have to do, and so on, if something arises and so on. So sometimes you try to navigate what should be a give and take. What are your thoughts when you look at your reference and so on?
Well, probably I never had those experiences because the end of a financial year for me at Sandy Hall, for the large part, the financial year then ended December 31st. So staff knew and understood, and at that time there was one accounting unit. And we had an accounting executive, one, now deceased, Gloria Moore Carrington. And she will walk the floor. And each officer, it was understood that this was required of us. So at Sandy Hall, you didn't get any shopping day. You didn't get any time off. But of course, we work around that. And as head of unit, whether you're working check staff or pay branch, Your staff want to slip away to Trinidad for a day or two, you cover that.
Yes.
And what we used to do, if somebody wants to slip away Monday, those officers would come to work Saturday, Sunday, and do what they have to
Get the
do.
work
Some Monday
done.
I am covering for
Right,
them.
get the work done,
Right?
yeah.
It's either I send them downtown, they whatever, God forgive me. But you understood what was required of you, right? If I don't come to work, it means that there is a kink in the whole chain.
Right.
And it's disruptive. So you came to work, you understood we are working, it's not going to kill anybody, you're going to get all the time off and all the periods to relax after that is done, right? But now I don't know, it's a different, it's a different era, it's a different socialization. Probably people are not willing anymore to go the extra mile. They're demanding the pound of flesh. But when the pound of flesh is demanded of them, it's a different story.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But I think too, if staff is chatted with, staff understands that we are all in this together. We have to do it all together. And if we don't pull together, the disruption that could occur. So these things are handled differently, and of course, depending on how it's handled, the results can be different.
Yes.
I probably had a different way of operating. For example, even when I worked as a senior HR officer at OCS and director, the staff at appointment and recruitment, I would say to them, I hope you remember that until and unless staff arrangements are prepared and approved for officers up to March of the following year, no one is to submit an application for vacation leave or casual leave. To get away from that, you probably have to apply for maternity or sick, right? Because if that was not done, come the following year, it would have been crazy, and other members of staff in other divisions would be disadvantaged. So this is the center, and we must operate as though this is the center. And all the other divisions rely here. Never really had pushback, but then.
So I mean, and the present era, as I see, work culture is completely different to your area.
It is.
So what is deemed a norm now will be perhaps even frowned upon as some of the things that you guys did in your time and so, though necessary. So there are some things to me that are commonplace, the work ethic that and so on that is required, especially in the public service, because you understand that your action has implication for several other people, and you to some extent, you understand? Talk about the relationship. I'm still on that same thing, about the relationship with, let's say, like administrators and even the staff, how that impacts the delivery when it is required for people to work extra and that kind of stuff.
The administrator is the administrative head, accounting officer. The administrator reports upwards. Everyone else below the administrator reports upwards to the administrator. An administrator coming into a division very early, I mean, you may not rush in, because sometimes only fools rush in where angels will not attempt to go, right? But you have to quickly understand what you have to work with, right? Now, if you are an administrator, you are old soldier, we have worked at other divisions, but let's say it's your first stint, you have to quickly understand what you're working with, the culture, the work ethics. You start with meeting, you must know what you're responsible for. all the different units, the different departments. You must get a sense of what each unit or department is responsible for. However, one of the first things that should greet an administrator upon assumption of duty is what is called a brief.
Right, right.
So that tells you what each unit or department is responsible for, where they're at. They're adequately staffed. What has the performance been like? What challenges they are having? When you get a hold of that, a field of that, how does that measure up with what the division has to do for the public?
Right, right.
So then a scale. How does
Right.
it tip?
Right.
Where is the balance? And if we are not, and you have other yardsticks, the complaints from the public, your stakeholders, right? Your internal and your external stakeholders will tell you whether all is well.
Right.
Good? And that has to be dealt with. There are some things that may have to be undone. The processes, the work ethics, the coming to work 10 o'clock and feeling that is fine and you're gone, you go for lunch at 12 and you come back at 2 and so on, right? How are we? Are we really? Because each division has a vision, there is a mission, you have your core values and so on. Sometimes it may take the administrator to pull away by self and look at everything. And then now you have a clear view, a clear picture of how we are going to work. No, you can't stamp. You have to seek buy-in, right? It may be hard, there may be pushback, but change brings pushback. But change managed well brings a joy to everyone.
Right. Gotcha.
Good?
Gotcha.
So there would not be a cut for each division, right? You have to manage personality, you have to manage perception. Some
Yes.
people, whether we like it or not, some people would resist a female head. Some may resist you because your head like mine, short, kinky, whatever. You know, so those have to be learned and undone.
Right.
Good, but the administrator should not cower. Good.
Yes, yes. I mean, that's such an interesting point. And I wanted to just ask another thing, because we see now. I mean, all public officials will have their own ambition as it relates to promotions and those kind of things, and administrators are no different. And we don't have a huge cadre of administrators in the Tobago space. So
we don't have anything well under the purview of the THA to allow them upward mobility.
Right.
So they go laterally.
Yes.
And off the island.
Yes. And I know the chief secretary has been waving a flag and pushing for some medium for us to be able to do that legally and so on. And we'll see how that goes. But the point I was making is, how do divisions, in terms of positioning themselves with their mandate as they chart the course, where the issue of a change of administrator is sometimes you have something you have no control over. You understand what I'm saying? So can that be deemed disruptive, or what steps can divisions take to make sure that there is, even with that reality, that there is continuity with the program and so on?
It's disruptive, yes, but necessary. There is nothing that can be done at the divisional level, all right? The only thing that could happen there is if all the positions, all the persons who sit as administrators hold a substantive appointment as administrator, then that's fine. There will not be any movement across divisions.
Right.
But that ain't gonna happen, right? So you find, for example, we stand to lose some administrators. The persons lower down the chain will have to be appointed to act as administrator. And remember, staffing arrangement is volatile. You plan for 6 months and then other things happen that you have no control over that will turn up the staffing arrangements you have made. For example, if we are losing some folks this month, next month, and we said, listen, all things being equal, these persons or PIPs, the Public Service Commission, could appoint persons to fill those vacancies, so we have movement. Or appointments can be done to other offices, the holders of which would be senior substantively to the people who are appointed now to act as administrator. They got to move. If they are deemed capable of assuming and discharging the duties of administrator. So the staffing is very volatile at that level, right? It's not what you want, right? It doesn't do well for the divisions. Good, because by the time you get accustomed to an officer, the way they work and the way we are getting this thing going, they're gone, right? It's not the desired arrangement, but can be controlled. All right. So.
Interesting. So I should let you know, those of you viewing us here, that we are going to take some questions. We're going to field some questions a little later on. And I want to let you know now that you need to post those questions on the Tobago Updates live. Because of course there will be several links in different places, but you need to post the questions on the Tobago Updates live, and we will, Lady Sulika will, I am sure, do her best to address those questions. You understand? So we want to talk. You touched on some things last week that raise a lot of interest in the minds of a lot of persons and so on. One of the things that person were trying to ascertain is the difference in terms of category or should I say quality? Not quality is not the word. I must stay with category because my word's not coming tonight, of workers. Right? We talk about some daily paid development worker and a permanent worker. Yes.
No. The term development worker is not a creature of the THA. It's not a new term. When in the 70s and probably in the 80s, development, well, let me back up. The regular government daily rated worker, and let me use the context of the THA. The regular daily rated worker under the THA, the wages and COLA, that's paid from that vote, wages and COLA. But there may be projects that a division or the THA would want to initiate for the development of the island. So the funding for that will come from under our development program votes. Workers may be recruited to work on those projects.
Right.
Now, in the 70s and the 80s, when there was the county council and in the early days of the THA, development program projects were started after Carnival and ended, at that time the financial year ended 31/12, right? So those persons were recruited, clear distinction from the regular workers that we'll call maintenance, that were referred to as maintenance.
Right.
these development workers or the persons recruited to work on the development program projects were hired after Carnival and they were carried until around November. That ensured that the foreman and the checker for those projects were taken from maintenance.
Okay.
So what that did, a worker so hired did not earn 200 days, or at that time it have been 260 days, to earn what is called an effective year's service.
Okay. Okay.
So that didn't happen. But it morphed somewhere after 2001, I guess thereabout, where persons who were hired on development program projects were not terminated at all at the end of a year, the end of a calendar year. Because you appreciate the financial year has now changed. So they were kept on, they continued to work, and in the layman terms, they earn service.
Okay.
Good?
Okay.
So they have started earning effective year service. Some people feel that they are disadvantaged by that. So that is right. What happened on some projects, the workers are hired with the same job title as the regular maintenance workers. So they are laborer, handyman, and so on.
Right.
And they are paid the same wage as the regular daily rate.
Right.
In that case, the workers are no different from the regular.
Right.
The only difference here may be the vote from which their wages are paid.
Okay. Okay.
So
and
one
it's
is
reasonable for
one
them
is
to
under wages and COLA.
Yes.
But you see, sometimes they don't know that, because the overarching feeling is that you can go at any time. A development worker is of a lesser God.
Yes, yes. You're vulnerable.
Right.
Yes, yes.
But they earn all the rights under the subsisting, as we say, collective agreement as the regular workers.
Right.
So the vacation leave, all the leave facilities, you work there until age 60, you earn the right for the same retiring benefits and so on. On the other hand, on some DP projects, workers are given different job titles. So you have an access worker, a timekeeper, and whatever. There's where the trouble comes in.
Okay.
Because the terms and conditions sometimes are very non-existent.
Right.
Those persons were hired, as my mother would say, under some funny, curious work arrangement. Some funny, curious work.
I like that.
Funny, curious work arrangement.
Yes.
Some approved by the Executive Council then that does not serve the whole employment relationship.
Right.
Those are the ones who are pretty much disadvantaged. So they do not earn the same facility or the facilities that exist under the subsisting collective agreement for the daily rated employees. There is where the trouble comes in.
Do you think that those actions were done on purpose? When I say, and I don't mean it in a mischievous way, but the fact that there may be in the horizon a problem arising, and so the changing of the job titles, did that mean that it will change the expectation or the responsibility of the employer as it relates to the benefits and those things that will normally be necessary, let us say, for a maintenance worker?
I don't know. Sometimes you wonder what went through the minds of the persons who gave the directive to so hire these individuals, right? Some of them, when you look at the time of employment, we know why. Good?
Right.
But I'm saying if it's your own, don't do them that.
Right.
Good. Because we live in the same space. We all work together. And sometimes we're working on the same job, doing the same duties, but our wages are different.
Right. Right.
And we have the same expectations. And you're telling one group, fine, I can meet your expectation. And to the other group, you're saying, I don't know you.
Yes.
Good.
Yes, yes.
So it demotivates people.
Sure.
For some of them, it may be what they desire because they can do other things, right? But Secretary Baines, employment law has changed so much that you find yourself in a bind, in a ticklish place when one has to deal with the industrial relations tangle, right? And you can't explain to the people at the industrial court and this kind of thing how you came up with this work arrangement and so on, right? So that is the thing with the development workers.
Because I remember I worked at what we used to call works then in the development program. I mean, I always tried to figure out what was the difference in terms of, because the expectation is there and so on. And left the program and never understood it.
Yeah, it's
you understand?
Yeah, it's really a horrid pot.
Yes. So we gonna get to some questions shortly and so on, but there are lots of persons who have probably reached retirement. One of the issues now is people getting their retirement benefits and that kind of thing. I know that is a next pot. That's a next pot. But you could handle it, man. You're a good cook.
It is sad when an individual has worked all the years, and upon whether it's compulsory retirement, voluntary retirement, person now face hardship in being awarded what is theirs. I make no excuse for where we are in the THA. One of the Secretary Baines, it is hard when I compare then to now and to see where it has gotten very much, it's worse now.
Yeah.
Today I had cause to visit one of the areas where our records are stored. And that is one of the greatest bugbears that was the staff at divisions who are required to prepare records for transmission to the pension branch so that folks can enjoy their little gratuity and so on. And I wonder, no attention, no care, no consideration has been paid over the years to where we store. Those records are people's lives.
Yes.
It's their lives on paper.
Yes.
And when you look at it and you look at the staff today trying to thumb through, they don't have a clue. In some areas, Secretary Baines is you and snake and rat.
Yeah, and roaches.
Fighting for records, right? Yeah. The other thing, you see, when an officer works in a ministry or department in Trinidad, when you enter, you don't move from that ministry or department. You're appointed there, there's where your life is, except you enjoy an appointment outside. Good? So all your records are there. But in the THA, we flit between all these divisions, right? Yes. And the care to our records and so on is not there. It's not there at all. So that hampers the proper preparation of retiring records for retirement. Your record of service and we say pension and leave records.
How important it is now with the Chief Secretary has been championing this cause for digitization across the
Right.
THA.
We had to make up our minds to do that. Now, we started years ago to do with Iris. And then it came down to funding. I guess people lacked the enthusiasm and that kind of thing. And that fell by the wayside. Right? But I know the chief secretary is very upbeat. He wants the digitization to go, and that will help us. Right? But then too, remember, the benefits are not paid in Tobago. Right? The gratuity and pension is paid from the pensions unit, control of accounts. So that goes there. In the case of a monthly paid officer, you will probably enjoy a gratuity and your monthly pension. The cries I have been getting and the complaints I have been getting from the daily rated side is, now, let me say, there is no pension plan for the daily rated employees. Good? Their retiring benefits is paid in two parts. The gratuity is paid from the pension branch. So that initial check comes from Trinidad. When a worker is 59, you get them to bring in their documents and all that. The service is verified, it goes off to Trinidad. When the individual stops working at age 60 is compulsory retirement, an updated record of service is to be sent to pensions branch. And the second part of the benefit is approved and sent to the THA. That payment has to be made by the relevant division under the THA. And it seems as though we are stuck somewhere. A couple weeks ago, while in the community, in the electoral district with the chief secretary, a lady complained that she is now 65. She retired 5 years ago and cannot get that second part of her benefits. I know sometimes we are tardy in sending the updated record of service off to pension branch. So that delays it at the start. There may be queries. Sometimes queries are not dealt with in a timely manner. When the approval gets here, the vote from which that is paid is not a vote that you will have money sitting. I don't know how administrators arrange their business to ensure that the budgets division, the budgets department, that information comes to the attention of the budgets department that we need funding to the tune of X so that we can make these payments. I don't know how it's. In my time, it was entered in the vote book as a commitment. So when you pick up budgets, pick up their figures, they're picking up that. I don't know what happens now, but 5 years is a long time. Is a long time, right? And let's face it, and I want to say to our people, whether you have just started to work or you're working a long time, you have to take care of yourself financially. Do your bit to tuck away, according to the old people, a little thing somewhere. There are different financial instruments that you could use. Because no matter how much you have saved, when there is no income and is only expenditure side, the pool diminishes very quickly.
Indeed.
You don't know where it is.
Indeed.
Right?
One bolt of sickness and the whole thing will wipe out.
And we find ourselves under tremendous hardship. And in the case of the daily rated person, between 60 and 65, when you may apply and be granted the old age grant, is a long time. And then people are experiencing horrendous times now with national insurance.
Yes.
So no income, the pool is decreasing daily, no national insurance if you qualify, and you cannot get. So we have to take a second look at how we arrange our business. Do something, choose whatever instrument, credit union, whatever, annuity, whatever. I want to encourage us to do that.
Do you think we are saving people in your in general in Tobago?
We used to. I don't know now. I don't know now. I remember when I started, the first thing my mother put me in was a susu.
Yes.
Miss Alma susu. And they had to bring the money every month to go in that susu.
You know, right? I actually question against the backdrop of cost of living and the way the population is organized now. Like people at say 30 and under and stuff. A lot more people are in rental situations and that kind of stuff. And so the bills collectively seem to bite into a huge chunk of whatever the income is at the end of the month.
Regardless. Regardless, something. No, people used to say put aside something for a rainy day.
Yes.
Regardless, do something.
Do something. Do something.
Everything cannot be wiped away.
Yes. Well, we want to start jumping into some of the questions that persons may have. I believe there may be a few questions, and you know, and so on, and of course we expect the questions to be reasonable. While Miss Orr is well learned in the public service matter, she's not omniscient, okay? Right? So we have something here from Miguel. Name tags are needed for all frontline workers to deal with the public. What has been done for workers who don't comply with division policies and late coming and frequent absenteeism and those kinds of things. That's the question.
For monthly paid officer, a civil servant, the civil service regulations provides for that late coming. If you persist in that, you can be deemed to have committed an act of misconduct, and that could lead to you being hauled before one-man tribunal, right? The administrator is responsible for ensuring that, because there's a prescribed form that is used to tabulate that, and persons are supposed to be served with letters informing of the number of time late and the hours lost, and remind you of what your hours of work are, and you run the risk of facing disciplinary action if it continues, and so on. So that should be done. In the case of a daily rated person, it ain't got nothing as late coming, should not be. If you're not there at 7, except there is some really unexplained roadblock, a stone came down in Mount Dillon or in Bad Rock and prevented you. But you should not be allowed to work.
You know, one of the things, and I wanted to weigh in on this, that it seems as if officers in areas of responsibility, heads of sections or whatever, seems to be reluctant to certify, to write. So you may hear conversations about delinquency on the part of an officer, on the part of workers, but when you look at the file, sometimes even at performance appraisal, you wonder if, in other words, what is said is diametrically opposite to what is written. How does that impact the work environment and the work philosophy, as a matter of fact.
Well, some people.
And what is responsible for this reluctance?
Sometimes it could be a lack of knowledge. They don't know that they could write. Right? They don't know that they could write right. The other thing is that some people are probably reluctant because of family relations. Some people may be scared because of our social environment. No, guns are plenty and all these kinds of things. Okay, so there may be a myriad of reasons. But if you don't write, if you don't draw poor performance, gaps in your performance to an employee in a timely manner,
yes,
you cannot do that at the end of a reporting period.
Right.
That can't come in there.
There is a contradiction.
Of course. Yes. You cannot do that. And you cannot be the head of a unit where everything going haywire. Pays are late, this always wrong. And then everybody at the end of a reporting period get a glowing performance appraisal. The two things don't add up.
Yes,
right?
Yes. So yes, I mean, and I am sure that those things will have an impact on the other workers, as a matter of fact, and your productivity in general, because you may have a person or persons who seem to have all this latitude, you know, missing days and that kind of stuff, doing what they want, come and go as they please, and that kind of stuff.
Somebody's the teacher's pet.
You know, but I feel like, and I get the point that the social environment and the
it scares a lot of people.
Yes, and Tobago is a very close knit, everybody related with somebody and so on. But it is doing tremendous injury to the work environment.
And you see, it's either you could manage as a supervisor or you can't manage. If you don't want to manage, say you're not interested in where you are sitting. All right? Because if you accept a seat, you must accept all that goes with it.
Right.
And leadership and management are involved.
All right, let me see. Okay. So yes, AJ is asking, what is the process to discipline public servants?
The disciplinary process is laid down. There is a code of conduct for public officers. I think it's regulation under the civil service regulations. I think from regulation 134 to 149 it encompasses the code of conduct. It tells you all the things you shouldn't do and so on. And if you do, you run the risk. You commit an act of misconduct and you run the risk of facing disciplinary action. Some acts of misconduct are considered minor that will go before a one-man tribunal. Those of gross misconduct will be heard by the Public Service Commission. The Public Service Commission regulations, I think it's chapter 8, deals with discipline. Regulation 85 to 88. I think regulation 84B deals with permanent secretaries and heads of department. 84, 85, up to 89 there deals with misconduct. I stand corrected, but 90 deals with the gross misconduct. All right, for example, if an administrator refers an incident to the chief administrator that an employee has done this, all the facts are laid out, date, place, time. If there were utterances, all the utterances, you have to say it as it, whether it's obscene or not. And that is sent to the chief administrator. The allegations are pointed out. If it warrants suspension, the chief administrator, under delegated authority from the Public Service Commission, can direct an officer to cease to report for work from a particular date. As I say, if it's gross misconduct, the chief administrator automatically appoints an investigating officer. The investigating officer is guided, well, that is laid down in the public service regulations. You have your 3 days, your 7 days, you inform the person, you do a full investigation.
Right.
And that report goes directly to the Service Commission, the Public Service Commission. It doesn't go to the chief administrator.
Okay.
All right, so that is dealt with. So they'll have the tribunal, and then penalties fixed if required and so on. Good? But the chief administrator can direct. Now, if the chief administrator is the complainant and suspension is warranted, then the Public Service Commission will do that suspension, because the chief administrator is the complainant.
Okay.
So the chief administrator can be judge and jury in the own matter. No, natural justice.
Okay, so does the same obtain for contract workers contracted to the THA?
I am not aware that the THA has a full disciplinary policy, but what is fine, there are enough decisions from the court and so on. And as long as the tenets of natural justice are followed, you're going to be fine. The contract itself should give you enough guidance, because if disciplinary action is to be initiated, an employee should have done contrary to some term and condition of employment. Yes. Right? So as long, because you must go to the root of the contract, that you have done this in breach of this, contrary to this, and so on. So you face this. Natural justice, and so on. You're going to be fine.
Right. I think that that issue of people not wanting to write stuff and nobody, it really kills. It exacerbates the other issues that we have in because to me, some of the things that we have seen as officials, and I'm sure you may have seen stuff too, there are some people that have no respect for work. They are no respect. They're not. I mean, they are not there coming to the work or doing the work for the work. They just there to make a little dollar. In fact, we have some situations where people use, especially these early morning things like CPEP and URP and so on, and going off to another job. Some people even have the gall to come to the government work. It has been reported, come to the government in uniform of the next place that they work in and so on.
But some of them, you talk about gall, some of them have the gall to tell you that they can't work beyond an hour or half an hour because they have to go to work.
Yes.
Because they have to go to work.
Yes.
There's where we have reached.
Yes. But I think that we have to do our best. I mean, I know it is going to be a mammoth task, but we have to do our best to see how we can optimize the work environment and people's understanding and appreciation for what they do when they are employed, and not just in the THA, as a matter of fact. I mean, I think the work, people's approach to work across the spectrum is lacking, in my view. A large percentage of people. I don't know your thoughts on that, but that's how I feel about when you hear other complaints from other private sector entities and so on.
That's the motivation for wanting to work. Sometimes you have to ask, what is the motivation? Listen, some people tell you straight up, I didn't ask to work, It's my mother or my aunt who went and asked. I didn't ask to work, They tell you that straight up. They didn't ask. So they are forced to be there because somebody made a negotiation on their behalf. But they don't want to be there. And they don't hide. They tell you.
You know, another thing that I see emerging, and this is more like a social question, that a significant percentage of young women, most of them have 2 or 3, at least, at minimum 2, 3 kids, and they single, and they tell you, they call officials and they tell you that they're unemployed, and you ask the question, and sometimes they misunderstand you asking the question. Some take offense. You ask them, well, where are the fathers of the fathers of these children? You understand? And because there is a platform for them to take care of the children and that kind of thing. And sometimes people tell it in the father not in their life. You understand? But the question is that it seems by the way it is put across that they expect the state to take care of them, that they feel like that the state is obligated to take care of them and their children. I want to be understood the way I'm asking the question. You understand? That there is, to me, there's a sense when you talk to people, they feel like because they tell you stuff like, I had 3 children to mind, man, how are you going to mind my children, as if is the state compelled you to go and have 3 children. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, it is what it is, eh?
Yes.
We can't go back, and the children are here.
Yes.
And they have to be taken care of, because if they're not taken, whether you like it or not, whether the mother presents it that way or it is not presented at all, it becomes a social issue.
Yeah.
It becomes a social issue. And we can't fight the father thing. We can't fight that. Good, we can't fight that. Because sometimes the fathers may be unemployed themselves. Eh?
Well, that's another thing.
Right?
That's true.
There may be nothing that you can go to the court about.
Right, that's true. That's true.
Sometimes, if you are brave enough and said, I will take the legal step, there is nothing for the court to garnish you. If the person is permanently or gainfully employed, and you know where the person is employed, you can get a garnishee on the earnings.
Right.
But if the person is a shifter, you can't garnish a construction worker anywhere. Good? And then sometimes, when you go to the court, the questioning, what you have to go through, you tell yourself, you're not, no, you're going through that. No, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. So the only recourse is to the state, right? The state may not be able to give you the full quantum of what is necessary to fully take care of the children.
Right.
Good? But that is the only result. Right? So we can't escape it. And it is more a reality now than a rarity.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It is there.
Right.
With us.
Right. So let's see. We have another question. Will the current administration put in place training public officers as to their scope of duties, and to take steps to promote proper disciplinary procedures, and both to supervisors, managers who fail to discipline orders under their charge? And I mean, the answer to that have to be yes, because we have to.
Remember last week we spoke about training.
Yes.
Not only to the Public Service Academy for upward mobility, but we also spoke about orientation and so on that fell away over the years. Good? So that persons know what is expected of them. Good? There must be training for middle managers. Because it's more than enjoying an acting appointment, whether at the middle or at the upper level. The leadership comes with it. Right? Motivating your staff comes with it. Discipline is part of it, if necessary. It's part of it. Good? So the training and so on. There is supposed to be an HR forum up and running. It was created in 2011. I hope it is still up and running and very efficiently. There is another training ground for officers.
Right. I mean, my general for the last year that I have my short tour of duty in and around the public service, my general impression is that most people really want to work and most people appreciate the work. You know, I mean, clearly the work culture is different to, let's say, your era. You understand? And I don't know, we may not have the latitude to go back to work culture that before your era. You understand?
We ain't going back there at all.
That you were far back.
Far back.
You need a crystal ball.
Yeah, we can't go back there. We can't go back there at all.
Yes. Well, it's just that these and you know the song "One Bad Apple Spoils the Whole Bunch" is such a powerful song, such a powerful lesson in that the actions of a few people, you know, really can do tremendous damage to the how the workforce appears and all that, how a division is viewed.
But you know, I don't know how staff operates now, but I know at times colleagues, peers will be the one to discipline
of course
their own.
Of course,
right? Without the involvement of a head of unit. They could send you to Coventry or whatever, but they will say, this ain't happening here. You got to pull yourself together, pull up
because
your
it's
socks.
impacting the whole unit.
Yes. And when there is that camaraderie, that togetherness, the colleagues, your peers, they take charge of that. If something on the external to the place of work is what is impacting or creating, pushing you to behave in a particular way, they treat with that, right? They may bring it to their supervisor's attention that this is happening externally and how we're going to treat with this. But I don't know if that no longer exists.
But it seems to like everybody that just mind their own business for some of these reasons you raised earlier. Sometimes they figure it is safer to do that because of some of the realities of the present day, you know, because you may talk to an officer in an office about the performance and the impact of the unit, and you get threatened for that and those kinds of things. I could see people saying, you see me, let me stay in my corner and do my work and that kind of thing.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, the supervisor still has to answer. Still has to answer. And the beauty about it, there is where your performance appraisal is important.
Yes.
Whether you're doing it quarterly, but you don't wait for the end of a reporting period. So any poor behavior and so on should be dealt with before the end of a period.
Right.
Should be pointed out, attempts made for correction and so on.
Yes.
It may be EPA, whatever. Right? But there must be some offer to help with the improvement of behavior, work performance, and so on. So, when you are appraised at the end of the period and the grade is not what you expect, you cannot say it's because somebody didn't like you.
Right. I have another question. Is it legal for public servants to delay or refuse to carry out lawful instructions from the line secretary or assistant secretary? That's a good question. That's a good question, AG. You get the answer.
If an instruction is given by a secretary or assistant secretary, I hope it is in writing to the administrator. It would be sound, it would be legal, it would be in line with proper procedure, guidelines, regulations. So that goes to the administrator, who will send it down the chain of command.
Right.
If any officer has an issue with instruction, there is room for you to indicate your objection. So that goes back. And you're writing it, you're saying why you present evidence and so on. And it goes back and the instruction says it's to be carried out.
Right.
It is to be carried out. because you have indicated your objections and you say why. And if there is the insistent, you have put yourself in the clear. You have CYA.
Right. Right. And done so
Right?
well.
Yes.
Yes.
The problem is if you feel that you must delay
Yes.
or push it in a drawer
Yes.
or me and dealing with that
Yes.
because you're still very upset about that,
Which is
You
very
c-
prevalent.
you can spark disciplinary
Yes.
action.
Yes. Yes.
Because 149 speaks to willfully refusing to carry out an instruction from an individual who has the authority or the right to give such an instruction. So you have to be very careful, right?
So I remember one of my colleagues, and I've heard it before. I remember one of my colleagues saying that he was told by one of the officers under his purview that I don't take instructions from politicians.
Well, it's not going to be direct because
Yeah.
that is why there is an administrator. It's not going to be direct. Good. It will not be direct.
Yes.
So that that statement is foolish because it's not going to be direct.
Yeah. But doesn't it speak to another kind of thinking in the minds of some as well, that these divisions belong to us, really? You understand? You politicians go and come, but this is our division. Doesn't it speak to that as well?
No, I don't think so. Whether the individual politician goes at the end of a term or not, politicians remain.
Right. Because when one go, one will come.
One come.
Yes.
So the individual may change.
Right. But they always are politicians.
But politicians will always be there. So to hold the thought or to publicly say that you don't take instructions from politicians is nonsensical. Because they would always be there.
Yes. Wow. I mean, I know we've ventilated a significant amount of stuff here thus far and so on. The one of the guys asked about tags and so on for people that work in the front office and that kind of stuff and so on.
And whether we like it or not, is not just because they work in the front line. What is important, and an issue we don't pay much attention to in Tobago, is security.
Yes.
And we have to come to that place where we understand this is an unsafe world and we have to be secure. We have to secure ourselves as much as possible. So entry into our public buildings and so on. I'm not talking about the customer, right? We have to secure ourselves, and the tags and so on are going to become necessary. They're going to become necessary because you don't know who is who. You don't know who is passing through. You don't know who is coming through.
Right.
Right?
As you're saying that, I remembered we went to St. Anne's. As it went to the actual institution, right? And it's the first time I go to the institution and so on. And we met a man out front. He seems properly dressed and so on, and was very, very, polite and spoke well and so on, and gave us some instructions. So when we got inside to the main office and we were telling, that listen, so they asked me, who man you talking about? You understand? And just as I remember, because sometimes you're going to an office and you would like to know who you had the conversation with, and if the names are there, that helps. Because sometimes asking somebody what your name is, people could take that in various ways and so on. So I think that there is merit in people having identification tags or whatever you call them.
It is a point of reference, right? And as I say again, security is becoming
an
issue for us.
Yes. Well, it's amazing how the times fly when you're talking sensible thing in a way. I'm telling you, I'm telling you. But we've gone past just slightly anyway our time tonight, and I would want to conclude that this has been another heavily informative and instructive session, Lady Williams. And I want to thank you for coming again tonight and sharing with us. And I am sure that the public is appreciative of the information.
And I hope so.
You know,
I hope so.
Yes, yes, and that's what we hope. That's the kind of value that we hope that the program will bring. You understand, and to let people have a better appreciation for some of the issues that you may not be sensitive to, you may not be aware of, that will help you in your deliberations and so on. If you work in the public service, or if you work in the workspace, you know, in general, because some of the matters are across work areas. You understand? It's just work ethic and the do's and don'ts of work and so on. So again, we want to say we appreciate your input tonight. Those of you that asked the various questions, we appreciate that and we thank you. Those of you who, the usual suspects who are always here every night, we have full disclosure. We thank you as well. We have come down to the end of another program. Any final words, lady?
I want to say to Tobago, when Chief Secretary Farley Chavez Augustine and his team campaign in 2021, December, they coined the phrase, "Let we fix this." Now, some people in their haste and their impatience and their acrid way want to attach no to it.
Yes.
But the word no was not there.
Yes.
But I want to say to Tobago,
yes,
that phrase was not just simply some words thrown together.
Right.
It wasn't coincidental.
Right.
For me, and I say to us, it was truly prophetic. Tobago needs fixing and has to be fixed, and confidence has been placed in this team to lead the charge in fixing it.
Yes.
I'm asking Tobagonians, stay the course with us. It's plenty to be fixed. I mean, today, Secretary Baines, I was at finance. And finance alone, or heavy fixing.
Right.
Heavy fixing.
Yes.
Stay the course with us. We can't do it alone. We need all of you. And we, together, are going to fix this.
Yes.
So that Tobago would become the greatest little island.
Indeed.
On this planet.
Indeed.
Thank you, Tobago.
Indeed. Could not have been said better. So thank you again for joining us for another edition. We shall be back next week, God's willing. Do have a fantastic night. We look forward to seeing you again. Bye-bye. We go.